You took my $214,000. Tell me how you plan to pay it back.
I have a stepdaughter. She's 18 and she...
You are all it takes. Offering an underage girl for what the hell you did.
Trust me, she will not create any problem. You can do with her whatever you want. Go from here and never come back. Get out now!
Mom, how can you do this to me?
Stay out of the way. And with that, our expansion into the new markets will be complete. I said get up! And get out from here!
Nadine Cowell had been stealing from Enzo Cataldi's distribution network for 2 years. She had used her dead husband's old supply contacts, skimmed small amounts from cargo shipments running through the port of Philadelphia, and funneled the money into a personal account she kept hidden under a cousin's name. It was quiet work, careful work, and for 23 months nobody noticed. On the 24th month, Enzo's new accountant noticed. The meeting happened in the back office of a seafood warehouse on Delaware Avenue. Nadine was brought in at 11 at night. 2 of Enzo's men stood by the door. Enzo himself was sitting behind a steel desk eating pistachios from a brown paper bag, cracking each shell with his thumb like it owed him something. He did not look up when she walked in. Nadine Cowell, he said, still chewing. $214,000. That's what my guy tells me you took. You want to hear the number again, or did it land the first time? Nadine's hands were shaking. She had rehearsed 6 different lies on the drive over. None of them came out. Enzo finally looked up. He was 41 years old, broad-shouldered, with a jaw that looked like it had been set wrong after a fight and never fixed. His eyes were not cold. They were impatient. He looked at people the way a man looks at a clock when he is already late. I can explain, Nadine started. You can't, he said. Because I already know what happened. I know the routes, I know the amounts, and I know the cousin's account in Camden. So, skip the part where you waste my time and tell me how you plan to pay it back. Nadine's mouth opened and closed twice. She looked at the floor. Then she said the thing that changed everything. I have a stepdaughter. Enzo stopped chewing. She's 18. She's healthy. She's obedient. She can clean, cook, do whatever you need at the estate. She can work it off leave-in. No salary. However long it takes. The room was quiet for 5 full seconds. Enzo leaned back in his chair. He looked at one of his men standing by the door, a tall guy named Paulie with a neck tattoo, and then looked back at Nadine. You're offering me a teenager, he said, to mop my floors, because you stole from me. She's a hard worker, Nadine said quickly. She won't cause problems. She does what she's told. Enzo cracked another pistachio. He stared at Nadine like he was memorizing her face for future reference. Bring her tomorrow, he said. 6 in the morning? If she's late, this conversation ends different. Rue Cowell was asleep when Nadine woke her up at 4:30 in the morning. Nadine told her she had found her a live-in housekeeping position at a private estate outside the city. Good pay, room included. A real opportunity. Jew did not ask questions. She had learned years ago that asking Nadine questions led to silence or yelling, and neither was useful. She packed a single duffel bag with everything she owned, which was not much. 3 pairs of jeans, a few shirts, 1 dress she had never worn, a toothbrush, a photograph of her father tucked inside a paperback novel she had been reading since October. She was 18 years old. She had graduated high school 7 months ago with decent grades and no plan. She had spent those 7 months cleaning Nadine's house, doing Nadine's laundry, and staying out of Nadine's way. She was used to being quiet. She was used to being useful. She was not used to being wanted. Nadine drove her to the estate, dropped her at the front gate without getting out of the car. Be good, Nadine said. Don't embarrass me. The gate opened. Rue walked through it, carrying her duffel bag over one shoulder. The driveway was long. The house at the end of it was enormous. 3 stories, stone facade, black iron balconies, a row of security cameras along the roofline, blinking small red lights into the morning dark. A woman named Mrs. Aline met her at the side entrance. She was around 60, heavy-set, with reading glasses on a chain around her neck and a clipboard in her hand. You're Rue? She asked. Yes, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. Call me Mrs. Aline. Come inside. I'll show you where you sleep. The room was in the staff wing on the first floor. It was small, but clean. A single bed, a dresser, a window that looked out at a brick wall. Mrs. Aline handed her a folded uniform. Black pants, white shirt, flat shoes. You start in 20 minutes, Mrs. Aline said. Kitchen first. Then the east hallway. Then whatever Mr. Cataldi needs. Rue changed quickly. Her hands were trembling and she did not know why. She told herself this was a job. Just a job. People do this every day. She was wrong about that. But she would not understand how wrong for another 6 hours. Enzo Cataldi ran his operation from the 2nd floor of the estate. His office had no decoration except a framed photograph of his mother that sat on the windowsill facing outward, like it was watching the driveway. He had a desk, 2 chairs, a landline phone he still used because he did not trust anything digital, and a whiteboard covered in numbers that meant nothing to anyone except him and his accountant. He was loud. That was the first thing anyone learned about him. He did not whisper threats. He did not stare people into silence. He talked, he argued, he interrupted. He told people exactly what he thought of them while they were still in the middle of their sentence. His men respected him, because he had built the operation from a single warehouse when he was 26. His enemies feared him because the last man who tried to undercut him had lost 3 businesses, a house, and a wife, in the span of 9 days. Enzo had not touched him. He had simply made a few phone calls. That was his power. He did not need to be violent. He needed to be faster, louder, and more willing to follow through than anyone else in the room. Rue's first encounter with Enzo happened at 7:40 that morning. She was mopping the east hallway when a door opened and a voice hit her like a wall. "Who put the Moreno file on my desk without the addendum? I asked for the addendum 3 times. 3, Polly. If I have to say a number a 4th time in this house, someone's going to be looking for a new house to work in." Rue froze. The mop handle was still in both her hands. Enzo came around the corner walking fast. Phone in one hand, coffee in the other. Polly 2 steps behind him, trying to explain something that clearly was not landing. Enzo saw her. He stopped. "Who are you?" he said. "I'm Rue," she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I started this morning. Mrs. Aline brought me in." He looked at her for exactly 2 seconds. Then he looked at Polly. "That's the Cowell girl." Polly nodded. Enzo looked back at her. His expression did not change. There was no curiosity in it, no softness. He looked at her the way he would look at a new piece of furniture someone had placed in his hallway without asking. "Stay out of the way," he said, and he walked past her. The air behind him smelled like espresso and something expensive. Rue stood there holding the mop, her heart beating so fast she could feel it in her throat. For the first 5 days, Rue existed in Enzo's house like a ghost. She cleaned. She organized. She ate in the kitchen alone after the staff had finished. She kept her head down and her hands busy, and she did not speak unless someone spoke to her first. She was terrified. She did not fully understand what this place was. She knew it was not a normal household. There were too many men. Too many locked doors. Too many conversations that stopped when she entered a room. She was not stupid. She knew something was off. But she was 18, and she had nowhere else to go. So she kept mopping. On the 6th day, everything changed. Enzo was hosting a dinner. 12 men in suits, long table, crystal glasses, expensive wine. Rue was assigned to serve. Mrs. Aline gave her clear instructions. Pour from the right, clear from the left. Do not speak. Do not make eye contact. Do not spill. Rue made it through the first course without a problem. She poured wine steadily. She cleared plates quietly. She was invisible, which was exactly what she was supposed to be. Then, during the second course, she reached across to refill a glass, and her elbow caught the edge of a bread plate. It slid off the table and shattered on the floor. The room went quiet. Every man at that table looked at her. Rue's face turned completely white. Her hands started shaking. She dropped to her knees immediately and began picking up the pieces with her bare fingers. Enzo was at the head of the table. He had been mid-sentence when it happened. He stopped talking. He looked at her on the floor. "Get up," he said. She did not get up. She kept picking up pieces. A sharp edge sliced her index finger and blood ran down her knuckle onto the white tile. I said, "Get up." Out. She stood. Her finger was bleeding. A shard was still in her other hand. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying yet. She was holding it. Enzo looked at her finger, then at her face, then at the 12 men watching. "Polly," he said, "get her a bandage and get someone else to finish serving." He turned back to his guests and picked up exactly where he had left off, as if she had never existed. Rue walked to the kitchen holding her bleeding hand against her shirt. She made it through the door. She made it past the counter. She made it to the corner near the pantry where no one could see her. And then she broke, silently, shoulders shaking, both hands pressed over her mouth. She cried the way people cry when they have been holding it for days, and the smallest thing finally cracks the seal. Mrs. Aline found her there 10 minutes later. She did not say anything comforting. She just handed her a Band-Aid and a glass of water and said, "Tomorrow will be easier." 3 days later, Enzo called her into his office. Drew had never been on the 2nd floor. The staircase alone made her nervous. She knocked on his door so softly he did not hear it. She knocked again. "It's open," he said loudly. She stepped inside. He was sitting behind his desk reviewing something on paper. He did not look up for almost 30 seconds. Rue stood in front of the desk with her hands clasped in front of her, staring at the floor. "Sit down," he said. She sat. He finally looked at her. He put the paper down. He leaned back. "Your stepmother stole $214,000 from me," he said. "You know that, right?" Rue blinked. "What?" 2 years. Skimming off my shipments. Using your father's old contacts. She got caught. She couldn't pay. So she gave me you." Rue's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "You didn't know," he said. It was not a question. She shook her head slowly. Her hands were gripping the arms of the chair so hard her knuckles were white. Enzo watched her. He picked up a pen from his desk and tapped it twice against the wood. "I've got a problem," he said, "and you're going to help me solve it. There's a territory consolidation happening next month. Abruzzo family in New York wants to merge operations. They don't do business with single men. They think it's unstable. They want to see a household, a wife, stability." Rue stared at him. "We're getting married on Saturday," he said. "Mrs. Aline will take you to get something to wear." "I don't." Rue started. "This isn't a discussion," Enzo said. He was not yelling. His voice was flat and factual. like he was reading terms off a contract. "You're already inside my house. You've already seen faces. You already owe me more money than you'll make in 10 years. This is how it gets settled." Rue's eyes filled with tears. She did not wipe them. They just sat there, blurring everything. "I know how old you are," Enzo said. "That's old enough to sign." He picked up the paper again. The conversation was over. Rue sat in that chair for another 10 seconds. Then she stood up, walked to the door, and left without saying another word. She walked down the stairs. She walked through the hallway. She walked into her small room, closed the door, sat on the edge of her bed, and pressed her father's photograph against her chest. She stayed like that for 2 hours. She did not eat dinner that night. The wedding happened on Saturday at the Philadelphia County Courthouse. No guests. No music. No flowers. Enzo wore the same dark suit he wore to business meetings. Rue wore a plain white dress Mrs. Aline had picked out from a department store downtown. It still had the tag tucked inside the collar because no one had thought to remove it. The judge read the vows. Enzo signed the paper without hesitation. When it was Rue's turn, the pen shook so badly in her hand that her signature came out crooked. The judge looked at her for a moment longer than necessary, like he wanted to ask something. But Enzo's hand landed on the counter between them and the judge looked away. Enzo slid a ring onto a finger in the hallway outside the courtroom. It was a simple gold band. He did not get down on one knee. He did not say anything romantic. He held her hand, pushed the ring past her knuckle, and said, "Don't lose it." It was my mother's. Rue looked at the ring on her finger. It was too big. It slid loosely around her skin, like it knew she did not belong in it. They drove back to the estate in silence. Enzo took a phone call for most of the ride. Something about a shipment delay at the port. He argued with whoever was on the other end in that loud, blunt way of his. And Rue sat in the passenger seat watching the city blur past the window, her left hand resting in her lap, the gold band catching light every time they passed under a street lamp. When they arrived, Mrs. Aline was waiting at the side entrance. She looked at Rue, then at Enzo, then back at Rue. "Your things have been moved upstairs," Mrs. Aline said quietly. "Second floor." End of the hall. Rue's stomach dropped. Upstairs meant his floor. The new room was larger than her old one. It had a real closet, a window that looked out over the back garden instead of a brick wall, a queen bed with clean white sheets, and a door connecting it to Enzo's bedroom. That door had a lock on his side. Rue set her duffel bag on the bed, stared at the connecting door for a long time. She could hear him on the other side, the creak of a chair, the click of a glass being set down, the low murmur of another phone call. She sat on the edge of the bed and twisted the loose ring around her finger. Around and around. She did not sleep that night. The days that followed were brutal in ways Rue had not expected. She had assumed the marriage would change something. She was wrong. Enzo treated her exactly the same way he had treated her before. She was staff. She was furniture. She was a signature on a piece of paper that solved a political problem. He did not eat with her. He did not speak to her unless it was an instruction. When she entered a room he was in, he either ignored her completely or told her what needed to be done and went back to his work. One morning she brought him coffee because Mrs. Aline had asked her to. She set the cup on his desk carefully, using both hands so it would not shake. He picked it up, took one sip, and put it back down. "It's cold," he said. He did not look at her. Rue stood there for a moment. Her eyes stung. She picked up the cup and walked back to the kitchen without a word. She poured it out, made a new one, brought it back. He took it without acknowledging her. She was his wife on paper. In the house, she was less than a guest. 2 weeks after the wedding, Enzo hosted a gathering at the estate. It was not a party exactly. It was a business dinner, disguised as a social event. 30 people. Expensive clothes. Loud conversations about money and territory and loyalty. The Abruzzo family from New York had sent 2 representatives, and Enzo was performing the version of himself that these events required. Louder, more charming, more generous with the wine. Rue was told to attend. Mrs. Aline helped her get ready. She wore a dark green dress that Mrs. Aline had found in a consignment shop earlier that week. It fit well enough. Her hair was down. She wore the gold ring. She looked like a wife. She felt like a prisoner playing dress dash-up. Enzo introduced her to the room with 5 words. "This is Rue, my wife." Said it the same way he would say this is the bar or this is the terrace. A fact. A landmark. Nothing more. Rue stood beside him for the first hour. She did not know anyone. She did not know how to talk to these people. A woman in a red dress asked her how she and Enzo had met, and Rue's mind went completely blank. She opened her mouth, closed it, and said, "Through family." The woman smiled politely and moved on. Around 9 o'clock, a man named Gianni Abruzzo approached her near the bar. He was one of the New York representatives. Mid-50s, silver hair, a smile that looked rehearsed. "So you're the new Mrs. Cataldi," he said, looking her up and down slowly. "He's a lucky man." "How old are you, sweetheart?" 18, Rue said quietly. Gianni raised his eyebrows. 18. That's young. Very young. He leaned closer. Must be hard, living in a house like this. All these serious men, all these locked doors. If you ever need someone to talk to, a hand landed on Johnny's shoulder from behind. Enzo was standing there. His grip on Johnny's shoulder was firm enough that the fabric of the older man's jacket creased under his fingers. "Shh," Johnny, Enzo said. His voice was calm, but the calm was thin, like ice over moving water. "You're talking to my wife. And the way you're looking at her is making me wonder if you came here to do business or to do something that's going to end this dinner early." "Oh." Johnny's smile disappeared. "I was just being friendly, Enzo. Be friendly to the bartender," Enzo said. "He gets paid to smile at you." "She doesn't." He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Every person within 10 feet had already stopped talking. Gianni Abruzzo straightened his jacket, nodded once, and walked away without another word. Enzo looked at Rue. His expression was unreadable. He did not ask if she was okay. He did not comfort her. He turned around and walked back into the crowd. Rue's hands were trembling. She held her glass of water with both hands to keep it steady. Something had just happened that she did not have the vocabulary for yet. He had not rescued her with warmth. He had claimed ownership. She knew the difference. But her heart was still beating fast, and she hated herself for it. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Nadine showed up at the estate gate on a Tuesday afternoon. She had not called ahead. She had not been invited. She simply appeared, pressing the intercom buzzer over and over until Polly came out. Rue was in the kitchen when Mrs. Aline told her. She dropped the dish towel she was holding and walked to the front entrance. Nadine was standing in the foyer. She looked thinner than Rue remembered, more desperate. She was talking fast, her hands moving, explaining to Polly that she just wanted to see her stepdaughter, that she had every right, that this was still a free country. Rue stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Nadine saw her, and her expression shifted immediately. Warm, maternal, performed. "Rue, baby," Nadine said, arms opening. "I've been so worried about you." Rue did not move. "You sold me," Rue said. Her voice was not loud. It was flat and quiet, and that made it worse. "You told me it was a housekeeping job. You put me in a car at 4:30 in the morning, and you drove me here and you left. You didn't even get out of the car?" Nadine's arms lowered slowly. "That's not how it happened, honey. You're confused. I'm married," Rue said. "I'm 18 years old, and I'm married to a man I didn't choose because you stole from him and couldn't pay it back. That's how it happened." The foyer was silent. Polly was watching. Mrs. Aline had appeared in the hallway behind Rue, and at the top of the stairs, Enzo was standing with his arms crossed, looking down at the scene. Nadine looked up and saw him. Her face changed. "Enzo," she said, switching tones immediately. "I just came to check on her." "A mother's concern?" "You're not her mother," Enzo said from the top of the stairs. He began walking down, each step deliberate. "You're a woman who stole from me, traded a kid to cover it, and now you're standing in my house calling it concern." He reached the bottom of the stairs and stood next to Rue, not touching her, not looking at her, but next to her. "Polly," he said, "walk Mrs. Cowell to her car. If she shows up again, don't buzz her in." Nadine's mouth opened. Enzo held up one finger. "I'm done talking to you, Nadine. I was done talking to you the night you sat in my warehouse and offered me a human being like she was a used car. The only reason you walked out that night is because I don't do business with people who aren't worth the paperwork. That hasn't changed. Leave." Nadine left. She did not look back at Rue. She did not say goodbye. The front door closed. The foyer went quiet. Rue stood there staring at the closed door. Her stepmother was gone. The woman who had raised her for 12 years, who had fed her and housed her and quietly broken her spirit one day at a time, had just been removed from her life in 30 seconds. Rue's breath started coming fast. Her chest was tight. Her vision blurred. She reached for the staircase railing to steady herself, but her hand missed, and she stumbled sideways. Mrs. Aline moved first. She caught Rue's arm and held her upright. "Easy," Mrs. Aline said. "Breathe." Rue could not breathe. The room was tilting. Everything she had held together for weeks, the silence, the obedience, the pretending, all of it came apart at once. She slid down against the wall and sat on the floor, with her knees pulled to her chest. She was shaking. Not crying, shaking, the kind of shaking that comes from the body when the mind has used up everything it had. Enzo stood 3 feet away. He watched her on the floor. His jaw was tight. His hands were in his pockets. He did not crouch down. He did not say it was okay. He turned to Mrs. Aline and said, "Get her water. Make sure she eats something tonight. I don't care what it is." And he walked upstairs. Rue heard his footsteps disappear down the second-floor hallway. She heard his office door close. She pulled the loose gold ring off her finger and held it in her palm. She looked at it for a long time. Then she slid it back on. She did not know why. That night, Rue could not sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the connecting door between her room and his. It was past midnight. The house was quiet. She could see a thin strip of light under his door, which meant he was still awake. She got up. She walked to the door. She stood there for almost a full minute with her hand raised. She knocked once. Softly, the light shifted. Footsteps. The lock turned from his side. He opened the door. He was in a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled up. No jacket, no armor. He looked at her and waited. "I don't want to be alone tonight," Rue said. Her voice cracked on the word alone. Enzo studied her face. The redness around her eyes, the way she was gripping her own wrists like she was holding herself together. He stepped aside and left the door open. She walked in. She sat on the chair by his window. He went back to his desk, where a stack of papers was waiting. They did not speak. She sat in his chair with her legs tucked underneath her, the gold ring catching the desk lamplight. He worked. She breathed. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, he looked over and she was asleep. Curled into the chair with her head against the armrest, one hand hanging loose, the ring almost sliding off her finger. He got up. He pulled a blanket from the closet and draped it over her carefully. He went back to his desk. He worked until 4. He did not move her. He did not close the connecting door in the morning. Rue woke up in that chair with the blanket still over her and the thin light of dawn coming through the window. The desk was empty. He was already gone. But the coffee on the side table next to her was still warm. She wrapped both hands around the cup and held it. She did not drink it right away. She just held it, and for the first time in that house, something inside her chest felt steady.
If you enjoy these stories, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you might think.